When you know the correct way to thread a Singer sewing machine, I guarantee that you will be successful sewing any project. So we're working on the Singer Elite ME457, but if you have a Singer sewing machine that is similar to this one with dials, maybe a couple of the dials at the top here, you can follow along. The Singer machines are very similar from model to model. So I'm going to show you the correct way to wind a bobbin, how to thread the machine, the tips along the way, and the needle threader at the end, and how to put the bobbin in. So starting with the bobbin, we will need to, I'm going to just pull out the empty one that came with the machine. And when you take a spool of thread, let's talk thread for just a second. Number one, thread quality makes a difference. So make sure that you treat yourself to some newer thread. I would recommend going to a local sewing machine store. They carry a better quality thread than some of the other places. We'll just leave it at that. And they're also there, they'll help you with the questions that you have. So if you're wondering why there's different kinds of thread, ask them about it. They will explain some of the differences and then get you the thread that you're going to use for the projects that you're working on. So this particular one is a little wider on the end. So let's talk spool caps. We are going to place this on the horizontal spool pin. There is a vertical one, and the difference is usually if your thread has these little X's like mine does, you will want to lay it down and have it come off the end of the spool. If your thread is more of a stack thread, where as you look at the spool, the thread lays next to each other, it actually goes best on the vertical spool pin and spins like a top. And so that can go right up here. I have kind of added the little felt pad there. That kind of helps it so the spool doesn't like spin extra and gives it a little resistance. So for good quality thread, you're usually going to find it as a cross-wound thread. So you will be using the horizontal spool pin. So with the spool cap, slide it on and then make sure there is no gap. If you do if there's a gap, that thread can kind of get caught in between and then you're going to usually, well, have trouble. So let's avoid that. If you have some smaller spool like this one, you're going to find a spool cap that's a little smaller and you can use that one in on the end of that particular size of spool. For winding a bobbin, you're going to see you've got a little place and they're numbered and also showing you where to go around each position. So here we're just going to click it in the first guide. That helps keep the thread perfectly aligned coming off the spool so there's never any resistance. This next part is the most important part of winding a bobbin. What's going to happen here is this is like a little pre-tensioner. See how it has a little spring action? So if you just go around it but don't get your thread underneath the spring, when you wind your bobbin, it's going to be lots of fluffiness, not a nice smooth wound bobbin. What you want to do is click the thread. Now there's a little picture showing me to go around clockwise. So I'm actually coming around it and coming back over the thread, but I can feel there's the resistance at that point. The next thing you can do is, just like the picture shows, take your bobbin and from the inside to out, thread the thread through the hole. As you pull the thread out of the hole, place your bobbin on the bobbin winder. Push it all the way down until it kind of clicks in place. And I'm going to be holding this just straight up with my hands around this. To engage it, you're going to push the bobbin all the way to the right side. And then step on your foot control. I'm going to do that without letting go of this thread. See how it's already winding nice and smooth up and down? And it doesn't matter if it's not totally perfect. Just the fact that it's going up and down is great. Now I'm going to just stop here and I'm going to trim this thread super close. You don't want to leave a little tail coming out the top of your bobbin. That will kind of interfere when the machine is actually creating a stitch. We can go super fast. Woo! And I'm always one to wind a bobbin all the way full, so I always have what I need. When you get towards the end, it will slowly stop spinning. So let's just get to that point. See how it's not spinning anymore? It's kind of trying, but not. That's when we're going to take our scissors, cut right in the middle, and then slide this back. Now, before I take this off, I'm going to show you a little trick. The way this bobbin needs to go in and drop into the bobbin case is exactly the way it has wound. So if you're just winding a fresh bobbin, all you have to do is lift it off and then come in and drop it straight in. It's the correct way for that bobbin to be placed. If you have a bobbin you've wound and you're reaching for it out of something else, there's a little picture on your bobbin door reminding you which way that bobbin needs to spin for it to be loaded correctly. Yes, there is a right and wrong side for putting the bobbin in, so make sure that that is done correctly. Let's just do that right now, and then I'll come back and thread the machine. We're lifting straight up, coming straight down and dropping it in. At this point, look at the bottom part of the bobbin area, about 6 o'clock. There's a little groove right here, and your picture on your door is showing you that you need to place the thread in there and kind of pull it up along the side to the left. I like to do this. I'll actually kind of pull that thread down there. It will fall into that little groove, but I'll put my finger on this and there was barely a little click, and it has landed in the tension area of the bobbin. So when it's done correctly, that is exactly where it needs to be. Now I'm going to just leave this hanging out here. When we're done threading the machine and threading the needle, I'm going to bring up this bobbin thread, and then I'm going to put the door on. So let's come back to threading the machine. At this point, we're going to undo the thread from the bobbin winder. This is not used during the threading. And you're going to see that there's like a dotted line when we wound the bobbin and then a solid line when we follow the path that is numbered for threading the machine. So we are keeping the first guide, that's number 1. Next, come to the second guide behind it and towards you. Now this part right here is very, very important. Inside here is the tension. Now I'm not going to make a big deal about tension because tension is usually not the problem. The problem is you, the operator, not getting the thread deep enough in here. And to solve that problem, the easiest way to do it is to bring the thread down. Let's come underneath 4 and pause. At this point, if you just take your thread in both hands and do a little floss back and forth, it has pulled this thread all the way down as far as it'll go into the tension area, and it is threaded correctly. The other thing you do need to do is to make sure that the presser foot was up when you do this. So if it's down, everything's closed up and then it doesn't get where it needs to go. So press your foot up every time you thread the machine. We're following the path, and before I go any further, I'm going to turn the hand wheel until I see this little guy at the top. So if you do not see that take-up lever at the top, hand turn the hand wheel until he comes up to the highest position. At this point, we're taking our thread in on the right, over and down on the left. And when you do it kind of in one smooth pass, it flips the thread into the eye of the take-up lever. Next, we're following down here at 6. There is one guide at the top of the needle. Go behind that guide on the right side. And one more guide really close at the top of the needle itself. Go ahead and pull the thread behind that. And now we're ready to thread the needle. At this point, if you want to lower the presser foot down, the thread is actually tight. Like you should not be able to pull that through. If the foot is up, it is loose and pulls it through easily. That's one way to test if you have threaded this machine correctly so far. The needle threader does this. As you bring it down, you swivel that head to the needle. Now on the back of that, there's a little tiny hook that is coming from the back of the needle towards us that we're going to give the thread to. As we bring it down, hook it underneath the left side right here, bring it all the way down, swivel it to the needle, bring the thread across and underneath, and at this point you can just pull the needle threader back and away from you. That little loop is your thread, and all you need to do is pull it through. And the machine is threaded. We'll do another video that is very up close and allow you to see the needle threader a little bit easier, but for right now, that is how simple it is to use. Let's lift up the presser foot, and to bring the bobbin thread up, start by holding the thread that has come out of the needle, and we're turning our hand wheel towards us, one full stitch. When you do this, you are going to be taking a stitch and bringing up the bobbin thread. Bring the take-up lever to the highest position, and you will see the bobbin thread is that little loop that we can lift up. Now we have both threads on the top of our machine. Slide it underneath the foot, down the middle, and to the back, and we'll finish by putting the cover in place and pushing down. let's see that everything has been threaded correctly by taking our fabric, fold the fabric in half. That way you have a nice set of layers for you to work on. Lower the presser foot down. We're on a straight stitch with everything kind of at normal. And as you sew, everything looks good. Now here's the trick for ending your seam. Before you lift up the presser foot, turn the hand wheel, bring the needle all the way up, and then look right here. See, the take-up lever is not visible yet? Keep turning it until it comes all the way to the highest position. At this point is when you can successfully take the fabric out by lifting up your presser foot, and there is a little cutter on this side of the machine, so you can take your fabric and you can go from front to back or back to front, pull straight down, and it perfectly cuts your thread. Now if you have a stitch on both sides of your fabric, you have threaded the machine correctly. So again, if this video has been helpful for you right here, go ahead and click that little subscribe button. That means that we can continue to make more content for you in the months to come. If you're looking for all the videos that we've done on this machine, you can find the link to the playlist in the description below.